This video is about looking at inequalities with two variables, meaning we have x and y in there. And anytime we had two variables, we were looking at equations that we can graph. So in this case, we want to look at inequalities that we can graph. So let's look at some examples. It will say graph the inequality, and we have y is less than or equal to 2. So again, on our Cartesian coordinate plane, this one is y and this one is x. And we want to be able to graph this on here. Now, graphing is very similar to if it said y equals 2. If it was y equals 2, it would just be a line. So we pretend that it says equals for the moment. Y equals 2 means there's no slope in there to do anything. So it's going to be a horizontal line at y equals 2. But we have an inequality sign, which means that there's going to be a part that is shaded. And so in this case, we want less than or equal to 2. So if we look at this, we're either going to shade above the line or below the line. We're less than, meaning smaller, so we're going to shade below the line. And so everything from the bottom up to that line, including the line because of the equal sign here, is part of the solution. Let's look at another example. We want to graph the inequality again. This time our inequality is 3x minus y greater than 4. And we can use any way to graph this, if we pretend it said equals, that we have learned in the past. So making an XY chart with numbers, we can use intercepts to graph this, and we can use slope-intercept form to graph this. If you forget all the fancy ways to graph a line, you can always graph anything by using an XY chart. So in looking at this, I would need this to be in y equals format for us to be able to graph it in slope-intercept form. It's not currently, so we have to rearrange it. So in rearranging it, we need to move the 3x over. So we're going to subtract 3x to both sides since it was positive. And we have negative y is less than, or greater than rather, negative 3x plus 4. And we have to get rid of that negative. Remember that there is a 1 there. So we're going to divide by a negative 1, but we have to do it to every term. And so we have y is greater than, negative 3 divided by negative 1 is a positive 3x. And 4 divided by a negative 1 is a negative 4. However, remember that when we divide or multiply by a negative, our sign flips direction. So it's going to be a less than symbol instead. But now we can graph this. So let's draw the graph here and put in our lines so we can count what we need to for our points. Okay, so graphing by slope-intercept form means we graph the y-intercept first. It is at negative 4, so we're going to go to negative 4 on the y and put a dot. And then we're going to graph the slope. And remember, slope is rise over run, so this is really 3 over 1. So we're going to go up 3 spaces, 1, 2, 3, and over 1 space, and put a dot. Now the only other difference when we look at graphing an inequality is that if it's less than or equal, less than or greater than, then it is a dotted line. So in this case, it's just less than. So instead of playing connect the dots, we have to draw a dotted line through here. looks something like this. And now we want to shade one of the sides, and we're not sure which one we're going to shade. And so what we have to do is pick a point that is not on the line and see if it works. So in this case, we are going to, we can pick 0, 0 because it's not on the line, and plug it in for y and x. So we would have 0 is less than 3 times 0 minus 4. 3 times 0 is 0. 0 minus 4 is negative 4. So is 0 smaller than negative 4? The answer is no. So the point 0, 0 is here, but it didn't work. So what we end up doing is shading the opposite side. So this whole side is what is shaded. And that would be the graph of this. Last example. We want to graph the system of inequalities. So when it says to graph a system, that means we're going to have more than one inequality on the same graph. So negative 3x minus y is less than 12. And we want to graph 2x plus 3y is greater than or equal to 9. So again, we can graph this a couple, any which way you want to, using the different techniques. But let's go ahead and switch them over to y equals. So let's look at the first one. Negative 3x minus y is less than 12. So in this one, we're going to add 3x to both sides. We get negative y is less than 3x plus 12. We're going to divide by a negative 1 to everything, and that should alert us that our sign needs to flip directions. 3 divided by negative 1 is a negative 3x, and 12 divided by negative 1 is a negative 12. And then now we need to do that to the other one. So on this one, we're going to subtract 2x from both sides, and we get 3y is greater than or equal to negative 2x plus 9, and we're going to divide by 3 to everything, and we get y is greater than or equal to negative 2/3 x. 9 divided by 3 is 3. Okay, so we want to graph these two. So let me rewrite them up here. So we have y is greater than negative 3x. Negative 3x minus 12. And we also want to graph y is greater than or equal to negative 2/3 x plus 3. So let's draw our graph. Let me erase this real quick. The graph needs to be a little bit bigger on the bottom for that first inequality. Okay, here we go. All right, let's graph the first one. So we're going to start at negative 12. That's why we needed to redraw this. So at negative 12 on the y, we're going to put a dot. And then our slope is negative 3. So it's negative 3 over 1. means we're going to go down 3, 1, 2, 3, and over 1. About right here. And it is just a greater than, so a dotted line it is. And we're going to extend it out because we don't know where they are going to meet. Again, we have to pick a point that's not on this line or inequality so that we can see which side to shade. 0, 0 is always my favorite. So we'd have 0 is greater than negative 3 times 0 minus 12. So we have 0 is greater than 0 minus 12. Is 0 bigger than negative 12? The answer is yes. And so that means that's the side that we are going to shade. So we are going to shade the side that contains 0, 0, which is up here, this direction. All right, now let's graph the other one. So here we're going to start at 3 and make our point there. And then our slope is negative 2/3. That means we're going to go down 2 and over 3. Remember that only one of them is negative. And then this one is solid because it's greater than or equal to. So this one gets a solid line. And we have to determine which side to shade. So 0, 0 looks like a great idea. So 0 greater than negative 2/3 times 0 plus 3. So we have 0 is greater than 0 plus 3 is 0 bigger than or equal to 3. The answer is no. And so with that being said, we are shading the other side. So in this case, we are going to shade this way, which seems kind of weird, but they actually do overlap. What happens is this guy should have been continuous, and with that, the actual answer is just where the shadings overlap. So the answer really is, I can get it to show, from this line that we drew, and it's going to be everything out here. All right, that's it for this video. As you work through the lesson, if you have any questions, be sure to ask your teacher. Have a great day.